Hello everyone, HisRoyalFatness here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing the How to Play series in the Tier 10 American Light Tank, the Sheridan. This is where I will show you 3 consecutive games in this tank to break down my thought process and the decisions I make. Before we jump into those games, I'd like to explain that this is not going to be a missile guide. I will give you tips on where you can go to best utilize missiles, but just like all mechanics in the game, missiles are really all about experience and getting a feel for the mechanics. So if you want to improve with missiles, you just have to play and experiment around. It will come with time, I promise you. And with that out of the way, let's discuss the Sheridan as well, because this vehicle received some pretty heavy nerfs recently, and what I've discovered is this vehicle cannot be as aggressive as it used to be, and we're gonna go all into that in the gameplay. But before we do that, I would like to show you the equipment I have on this tank. This is what I am happy with in regards to the Sheridan, and with that out of the way, let's jump right into the first of the 3 games. Alright, so for this first game, we are going to be on Vineyards, and I am heading straight towards the encounter cap, and that is for a very good reason. Not just because you can get great early spots up there, but because it is a very essential position on the map for map control. Holding this area of the map is very important because it gives you the ability to look both left, center, and right, see what the enemy team is doing, and respond according to that information. And additionally, it's super important because with the Sheridan, the ATGM is your main benefit. That is the main perk of this vehicle. So when I take positions in the Sheridan, it is based on my knowledge of ATGM and where I can be useful. Now, take for example, this IS-4. He is pushing up to a position that would ordinarily be safe for his tank. However, I have missiles. He cannot go haul down there. He can no longer comfortably poke on my teammates entering the town. We have taken map control as simple as that, just by taking our tank here and shooting a few missiles. And that is so important for the Sheridan. You need to understand that the ATGM mechanic allows you to play extremely bizarre, right? You can take such unusual positions and be safe because you can shoot missiles. So try and think along those terms in this tank. Now, what I've noticed here is the majority of the enemy team has pushed up towards the dunes. I mean, not the dunes, into the ruins. I don't want to take that fight. So knowing that this IS-4 is isolated, I'm just going to push past him and get safe on the other side of this hill where they are unable to push on me, right? I know the grill is probably somewhere in the ruins. I'm not concerned about him. I'm on the other side of the hill, and the majority of the enemy team is clearly pushing onto our last E100. We're going to lose that side of the map. 100%, no doubt about it. That's why I made the push over here, because with the Sheridan, you never want to be targeted or pushed on. You just don't have the DPM or armor, or really not even the mobility anymore to be aggressive in this vehicle like that. You really have to think about where your team is and how you can best get cover fire from your team while still being somewhat useful. So right now, I am just hanging around towards this middle. I was thinking of shooting the Vickers, and there's not much I can do. I don't want to push right now. I don't know where that grill is, and of course the grill gets spotted there, which is why I'm happy I didn't push left. I could have taken 600 plus right there. So I'm just going to hold the mid for now. I'm waiting to see how the enemy team positions themselves before making an aggressive play, and I'm just going to put a missile into this VKB before pulling back down. I knew he was stock. That's why I was fine making the trade there. Of course, no trade is a good trade, but if you're going to trade, 450 for 310 is a decent trade in the end. And right now, I'm targeting this VK to try and get our 57 Heavy's attention. He had no idea he was getting yelled there, unfortunately, because he takes 300 ram damage for that. But it's okay, because I myself am going to make a mistake, and that mistake is I do not capture B. I had all the time in the world to capture the B cap right here, and I didn't. Of course, shooting the IS-4 there was the right play. It would help keep our E50M in the game, but after that, I should have just gone straight for the B cap. They have double caps. They have 700 cap points nearly, and instead, I decided to go towards the mid. Now, what I was originally thinking was I would kill the Vickers and cap A. That's why I didn't go for B immediately. But to be honest, I should have just taken the easier route and capped B there instead of deciding to go for the kill and then the cap, because that would have made this game a lot easier having double cap control here. And it's just me and a one-shot E50 left. Now, I'm going to go for the cap here instead of the kill because I realize the game is just so close on cap that we need caps this very moment, which is why I'm going for the cap here. And we're going to load high explosive up for this Foch who is yellowing. We're going to do 600 damage. Honestly, a bit of a low roll. That's one thing I dislike about the high explosive ammunition on this tank is 680 alpha is really not significant for a 150mm gun. Now, I'm going to push onto this Vickers now because he's isolated, and the reason I turned in towards him is because I wasn't sure if I would accidentally low roll him and then not get the kill. So I wanted to guarantee the kill by potentially ramming him if I low rolled there. Unfortunately, I should have just kept going straight the moment I took my shot there, because I took an unnecessary shot from that 50B, and even worse, I'm going to bounce this missile shot on the top of the Foch. I don't know how that bounced. It was just, I think I hit him right in the spaced armor area of his cupola, which is a little bit unfortunate because now we're really running out of time, and I need to kill this Foch right now, and unfortunately, I poke a little too high there and take a shot from the Foch. And I'm a one-shot. I know the 50B is also a one-shot, but he has a bush. He has cap control. He may be pulling back. There's nothing I can really do here. I could flank left, sure, but either way, I'm probably dead meat, and I just go for a blind missile there to see if potentially I could snag a kill shot. But it's okay. We have lost on the cap. So that me not getting the B cap there earlier really threw that game. And so my big mistake this game was just not going for the B cap, and then of course messing up on the Vicar kill by not pushing to the right after getting the kill shot immediately, because that gave the 50B time to shoot me once. If not, I still might have been able to wing it. So a bit of a mistake there. Overall, a decent representation of how you should play the Sheridan. For instance, taking a position where you can use your ATGM, relocating to make sure you're getting support from your team, and so on, but not YOLOing. That's important. And in a similar manner, the second game here on Yamato Harbor is going to have a somewhat similar playout. I'm going to go straight towards the middle here. Now, I'm not going towards the Supremacy C base, because when you go to the C cap, you really have to make sure you have good cover fire from your team. And by looking at the mini-map, I was able to identify early on that, no, I did not have good cover fire from my team. Sure, there's a grill and an AMX-30 that are covering me, but the majority of my team did go into the town. So I did not have cover fire there, so I decided to hold this hill. And do not undermine the importance of this hill. This hill is so valuable if the majority of the enemy team goes C, because you can really stay covered here. And of course, we're going to have some nice ATGM shots. For instance, a blind shot into their Sheridan, who I saw was pulling forward. Shots like that, you get better at making those with practice. I mean, I really can never tell you how I make that shot. It's just something you have to understand after knowing the mechanic. Now, back to the game. They're taking C cap. We know they have at least 2 or 3 tanks over at the C side. The majority of my team is at A, and I know they're not going to shoot me from behind. And I'm going to make a poor shot here. But back to what I was saying earlier, they're not going to shoot me from behind because my team is already on the A cap, and they would have spotted tanks at A. So this gives me great information here. Okay, they probably have 2 Waffenträgers sitting in a bush, and everybody else is going to push in front of me. So I'm going to hold here. I'm not going to run away immediately because I still have the cover fire of a gorilla, and I still have this AMX-30 prototype who is more than likely going to take the attention of the enemy team. There's nothing he can do there. He's trapped. Now, if I'd taken my Sheridan there, I would have been trapped as well. And we're going to delete this Waffle, who makes a very aggressive play on me. And what I'm doing here is perfect. You see how I am hugging this hill. I cannot get shot from the C cap. I can also not get shot from the tank destroyers that they potentially have in their spawn. By hugging here, it is perfect. I am almost completely secure here from both the left side and the right side. And this is where you want to hold if you find yourself getting pressured overly by the C cap. Now, I didn't run away immediately because I could see my gorilla was taking the attention of the enemy team. So I just said I'm going to pull a kill shot onto this E50, and then I'm going to relocate, because now I see, okay, we have a lot of tanks starting to head in towards the enemy spawn, which means I will have cover fire there. Once again, always trying to make sure I locate my tank according to where my team can give me cover fire. Make a bit of a mistake there, but the troll spaced armor on the very front of the Sheridan does allow me to get a bounce there, so very lucky. I should have taken at least 640 damage there. And now the I-7's pulling up behind me. Once again, not too concerned about him, because I can see I have 3 teammates pulling through the enemy spawn. They're going to give this I-7 a difficult time, and as I anticipated, the I-7 immediately gets distracted because he pushed into a major crossfire here. So I'm going to push up here because I know the Waffle isn't going to poke out again. He's not going to want to risk it, so instead, let me just help my team kill this IS-7 here. And, you know, it's a straightforward game. I spent pretty much this entire game just going around this hill. But I did it in a way where I understood where my team was and how my team could best cover me. You saw that not once did the enemy team try to pressure or push onto me there. If they did, they would have been farmed. And that's just the truth of it. So if you position yourself intelligently in a Sheridan, keep an eye on what your team's doing and figure out where can I go where my team can best cover me, and where can I go where I can also use missiles effectively. You're going to have a good time. I mean, It definitely helps if you're skilled with missiles because that gives you a much greater variety in the positions you can take, especially if you can hit your shots pretty consistently. So we have done 4.5k damage here. We're going to win on cap. We have double caps, we have 900 cap points, and there's 1 STB versus 5. So I'm just going to push in here and try and farm some last minute damage because honestly, there's nothing that STB1 can do. There's no way he can win this game when we have so much cap ahead of him. So yeah, a pretty good game. Once again, can't clarify enough. Making sure I have cover for my team, and you really saw that I was able to notice when my team pushed into the enemy spawn, and that was my turn to locate around the hill. In a similar manner, that is what you should do in your Sheridan. Is you can take fairly aggressive positions, but make sure you have cover. Never try and find yourself in an isolated position, because when you do that and you get fully isolated from your team, you're such an easy kill. I mean, this thing can be deleted so easily, especially since you can't outrun the enemy team as much anymore. Okay, so for this third game, we are going to be on Winter Malinovka, and I'm going to be pushing rather aggressively towards the A-cap side of the map. Now, I can see the enemy team, they only have 1 light tank and 1 medium tank. We have 2 mediums and a light, so we have a little bit of an advantage here. So I'm going to do a very aggressive spot. I love this spotting position because you can see the enemy lights before they can see you, and also you can always spot tank destroyers that go onto those hills to the left, because a lot of times tank destroyers love going there. You get an early spot, and oftentimes your team that is in spawn will nuke those TDs. However, I spotted nobody. Absolutely nobody, which already tells me that the enemy team is pushing up towards the windmill side of the map. So we're going to get a nice shot into the ag and just pull back here for a moment. Now, the early spotting position I took at the start of this game, definitely take it cautiously, because if the enemy team commits 7 tanks to your side of the map, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, you can't really get away very easily, and if you do, you're losing at least 3/4 of your hit points. So it's a risky position, but I was willing to take that risk. And of course, we find the Motion here. Now, he's not AFK, but I think he is hardcore lagging, because he is still turning his gun around, and he's clearly loaded into the game, and he's even going to take a shot here, but he's obviously not looking at me, so I'm just going to farm a kill here because we can pick up a quick kill on these tanks while the enemy team is pushing straight towards our spawn. And unfortunately, our E100 goes down extremely fast, and our AMX 5120, he's gonna go down the same way. So I'm not gonna push in and support him. There's no point in me suiciding into 5 of the enemy team's tanks. That would just be a death sentence for me. Instead, I'm gonna sit here and try pre-aim for this IS-8 when he crosses. Unfortunately, the gun is troll and things happen, so that shot bounces, and now I'm going to pull back just a little bit. I don't want to be the very first person at the front of this line here. If they push, I would be getting deleted first. So instead, I'm going to take a little bit more distance here. I am going to take this opportunity to put a shot into this T-62A. Now, what do we have here? We have a situation where we swapped spawns pretty much. The enemy team is in our spawn, and we are in their spawn. Instead, I'm just going to hold here. We do have double cap soon in a moment. I'm just trying to see what I can shoot at for the moment. I'm just going to hold this hill, and this is where the Sheridan really can differ from other light tanks. If I was in a different light tank, I would be considering my options a little more cautiously here. Like, okay, do I pull back towards A? Do I pull back towards C? I can't just sit here. However, since I'm in a Sheridan, I realize, you know what? I can just kill this 268 and not even expose myself one bit. So that's exactly what I do here. I pick up the kill here, and now I can see my team is going to be pressuring back towards our spawn through the C-cap side of the map. So I'm like, okay, I need to help my team here. I need to figure out where I can support them in this situation. So I'm going to pull up towards the middle of the map. I can see that the 57 Heavy is already distracted pulling back, and now I have an easy shot on the 62A. I didn't shoot high explosive there because honestly, I do not trust this gun enough to make those types of snapshots. I could have, and it would have penned, but I didn't want to gamble in that situation. Now I'm going to take a shot from the Vickers here, but I still want to see if I can start putting damage into the tanks that are clearly going to push onto my 2 teammates. So the ISA is perfect, but I'm not going to push up after that. Because if you remember earlier, they had a Jagdpanzer spotted in our spawn. Where could this Jagdpanzer be? Okay, we found him. So that's why I didn't push in. If I pushed in after that IS-8, I would have taken like 900 damage there, right? That would not have been fun. So instead, I'm just going to hang out behind this building, try and go for a kill shot on the 57 Heavy. Unfortunately, it doesn't hit. It was fairly close, but it didn't hit. But now that I'm useless here, there's no point for me to sit around when the Vickers is pushing into an exposed position. So now I can push back towards this Vickers light and help my team kill him. So I'm being cautious here. I don't want to just YOLO into the Vickers. I want to wait and see if the Hori is going to give me some assistance here, which he is. He's going to push onto the Vickers from the other side of that building. which leaves me free to kill the Vickers once I'm reloaded. And now it is a very close game, to be honest, but at the same time, once again, my team does have superior caps. We're at 925 cap points at the moment, and all I need to do here is stay alive. So I'm going to run away from the 62A. He can kill me, slaughter me with DPM. But what I am going to do here is I'm going to stop for a moment and just aim for a track shot as he pulls around the corner. And that was so important because when you're in these kind of 1 versus 1 brawls, you don't want to spend the whole game running away, especially because I couldn't just run away that entire game. Considering that a 62A would have shot me at least 3 times running away there, I figured, you know what, I'll just stay a moment, take the shot, pull forward, wait for him to get distracted, and then pick up the kill. So we're on 6k damage here already. I believe it's 6k. No, it's 5k. My bad. My eyes aren't very good right now, apparently, and we're just going to push in. The Yag misses his shot, so, you know, I was just going for farm here. To be honest, if you wanted to play it more safe, we had cap. I didn't even need to push there. I could have just hid behind a building. I was gambling that the Yag would not max roll me there, so a little bit of a risky play pushing in there, but I wanted the extra damage. I wouldn't say that was the right play if you wanted to win. If you're just trying to get more damage, then sure. But yeah, in reality, that was a bit of a risk pushing on that Yag right there in case he had max rolled me, because I didn't know if he had a max roll or not. So a good game, 5.6k. Once again, just kind of moving around with my team, not letting myself get pushed on, and so forth. So for this fourth and final game, this is an extra game. It's not a consecutive battle, but I think it's a really good example of the Sheridan hitting all marks on everything that I like and dislike about this tank, just in this one game. So we're going for an initial spot run here to see if we can get some early shots in. Unfortunately, we dunk our first shot. If I was in something like a Vickers or a Batchat, that shot would have gone in, but just due to the dispersion and rather poor shell velocity on this tank, that is not going to happen. Okay, so we know they have 3 tanks committed to the corner. They also have other tanks, but I want to do is spot them. If they're pushing into the dunes, I need to get this information, which is why I'm hanging out on this hill. However, no more information is needed because that Progetto is running away. The absolute only circumstance in which that Progetto would run away is if his teammates and his tune mate were not supporting him. He had an E100 and a tune mate, Rob, yeah, and he ran away. It's more than obvious that they don't have support, so I decided to help my team and tell them to aggress on the right and take out their medium tanks while they're isolated. So we do pick up a nice kill on the 62A. We also nuke that poor T92 there, and I'm just going to pull up towards this middle dune because the enemy team is mostly clustered in the mid, obviously from my information. And you know what, that Progetto shot me earlier, so I'm not very happy about it. I'm just going to dunk a missile on top of his tank while it's behind a hill. Yeah, a shot that is just all down to missile experience. Yeah, there's no other way for me to explain how you do those shots. You just have to understand the timing and the distance in which you're dunking the missile over a hill. And once again, we're going to get a nice shot onto this IS-4, just aiming for the rear of his engine deck, and we manage to curve it in before he pulls around the cover. So I'm just hanging out here using the ATGM, and this is where the tank is so strong. In these dune engagements where you can shoot down onto vehicles, I want to kill this Progetto, and our T92 is very exposed, so I'm just going to cover a missile over this hill right into the Progetto side, and the T92 picks up the kill. Now, I got really startled here. I had absolutely no clue that T95 was there. I was like, oh my god, where did he come from? Because it wasn't spotted at all, and then all of a sudden he's right behind me. So I decided to pull into what I thought was cover. I thought the T92 had just shot, sorry, the T95 had just shot. So unfortunately, I take 600 to the turret there. I've already bled a lot of hit points, and that was just 2 shots there. But it's no problem. Now, the enemy team is getting a little bit high on the cap points, but right now, I just want to help kill this IS-4, who was kind of preventing my team from getting the cap resets. And I was platooning with my E3 partner here, and he was telling me that he'll be able to get the reset in just a moment, which is why I'm not YOLOing the cap, which is perfect for me, because if I YOLOed the cap, I would die there. 100%. There's no way for me to get that reset without dying. So instead, I'm just going to pick up a kill on this IS-4, and it is a 4 versus 3, but not for long. If you look at my allied team's hit points, everyone is super low, like really low. Like my teammate, the other tanks, they're pretty much all one-shots except for this Patton, which is unfortunate. I'm going to go for another missile dunk shot. However, I underestimated the time and I dunk it way too early. If I'd waited maybe a half a second longer, that may have hit the K91 there. But now it is a 3 versus 3, and unfortunately, our ISA is not going to survive very long. He's stuck in a ditch, and he's a one-shot. There's not much I can do about this, so I'm playing passively here. I don't want to get spotted. I want to see if I can get some damage dealt, and the E100 gives me the side of his turret, so that is perfect for me. I managed to deal a shot there, but I pulled down as I know I am spotted. My goal was just to try and help keep our ISA alive, but unfortunately, there's nothing our ISA can do, and our Patton has just taken a shot. He's a one-shot now, but now I see, okay, the K91 is going to give me a shot, or not. The gun is not going to be very nice to me this game in regards to the AP rounds. Unfortunately, We bounce a critical shot there, which if that had hit, that would have been great. He would have been a one-shot. This game would be way easier. But there's nothing I can do here. I can't push the K91 right now. So I'm going to take a shot at the T95. That does go in. So that is good for me. The reason I can't push into the town right now is because the E100 and the K91 would just double tap me. I'm a two-shot to anything in this game right now. I'm a two-shot if the T95 or the K91 taps me, or if the IS4, sorry, not the IS4, the K91 and the E100. I can't push. I have to play passively. And unfortunately, we ricochet a critical shot there. Now, the reason I'm not pulling back here is I want to try and distract this T95 from pushing onto our Patton, and we're going to get a very nice missile right into his hatches. What I did there is I let the missile go up a little bit before dunking it down, just to make sure I had the angle to go on top of the T95, and our Patton actually picks up the kill there. So that was perfect team play between me and that M48 Patton. But now I have to get myself concerned again with the encounter cap. So I'm going to push left here. I didn't want to push right because I figured the E100 would be pre-aiming there, and I rushed the shot here. Honestly, I could have aimed it in, but I thought at the time the E100 would be above where this IS-8 died, which is why I didn't want to sit there and expose the side of my turret. Unfortunately, I missed the shot there, and I'm going to be a Muppet, and we're going to just absolutely miss this other shot. I thought I had HE loaded there. I mean, I thought I was going to be able to pull forward more, but I ran into a wall, so unfortunately, I missed the shot there. And this was honestly a questionable play here. Pushing out on this side when the K91 clearly had shots here. However, my goal here was just to try and kill this K91 as fast as possible while the E100 was distracted. Unfortunately, I lost all of my HP there. So that was not a good play by me. If I just waited, and I only would have taken one shot, but it wouldn't really matter in the end because taking one shot either way makes me a one shot for that E100, which is why I was fine taking those two shots there, is I already knew it would end up with a 1v1 against this E100 on me as a one shot, no matter my health. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you Dune gameplay, and never, ever, ever underestimate Dune gameplay when you're in a light tank versus a slower heavy tank. What I'm doing here is I'm waiting for the E100 to expose his tracks. I wanted to go for a track shot, but obviously he's showing his entire lower plate, so I just go for the lower plate shot, and this is how you play Dunes. So he doesn't have enough gun depression pulling up. I psych him out to think I'm pulling forward, then I back up, and then I pull forward again. He can't keep up with his turret traverse speed, and we just pull around the other side. Once more, he no longer has gun depression. We pick up the kill. So essential in brawling on Dunes. If you're versus any kind of slower vehicle, using the dunes like that is the #1 way I would recommend brawling. Don't brawl around the dunes. Force them to push over the dunes onto you, because you would be surprised how difficult it is for the enemy team to actually hit you when you're zooming around the dune right next to them. So we win that game, 7,500 damage, a pretty good game. I definitely did not play that perfectly. I could have done a lot more damage in that situation if I had just hit more shots and I was paying more attention, but I think it was a good example overall of where the Sheridan is strong and where the Sheridan is weak. It is strong in terms of the HEGM. It is quite weak in terms of its gun in standard situations, and you can't be super aggressive with this tank. Honestly, you really can, and it puts it in a weird spot where you can be aggressive in some situations, but only if you're secure and have team support. Otherwise, you're not going to do well. So really, that is the Sheridan in a nutshell right there. Stay with your team if you can. Do not get yourself isolated. Find those aggressive positions on maps where you can kind of take map control away from the enemy team by using the missiles as an advantage. That is really an important factor about the Sheridan, is you can use those missiles to make enemy positions useless, right? And always make sure you have adequate cover from your team, right? Keep an eye on your team. It's super important. You don't want to get isolated, but if you are going to become isolated, make sure you have at least 2 or 3 guns covering you and you're somewhat secure. And with that out of the way, that is how you play the Sheridan from my perspective, in its current status. Of course, who knows in the future, maybe Wargaming will take away the HEGM and it may be a completely different tank. But in its current state, that is how I would recommend playing it. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. You guys are awesome, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.